It's college football prediction time, everyone. Hello, welcome to another edition of On-Air. I am your host, Ryan Ayers. Tonight I have three distinct different categories that I'm going to get into. The top sleeper teams out there for this season, and the Heisman Trophy winner, and the teams that will eventually make the Final Four playoff come December. So let's get right into it. My top sleeper team, let's go for a top 25 team out there that I think is going to possibly push and make a run towards that Final Four and at least surprise a lot of teams, and that is the number 9 ranked team currently in the media poll, and that is Tennessee. I like them. They've got Hurd, Kamara in the backfield, little thunder and lightning, and the genius at quarterback, Josh Dobbs. Butch Jones has moved the needle ever so closer each and every year to that tipping point of a 10-plus win season. I think this is the time that he finally gets it. They have a mid-October matchup at home against Alabama, and that Neyland Stadium is going to be rocking. And it's probably the loudest you've heard it in over a decade since Fulmer was in town coaching the Vols. So they've got a lot of talent. They're young. They've gotten over the hump last year towards the end of the season. That looked like they had things rolling towards this momentum. They were so close even last year to almost beating Oklahoma, who made the Final Four eventually, and a close loss. And a tough loss to Florida on the road when they led by 13 with 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. I just think Butch Jones has finally got the makeup that he wants. The team has been his now in his fourth season, and I believe it's time for them to really make movement and make waves. They blew out Northwestern in their bowl game, so we'll see what happens with Tennessee. It's a popular pick among many people out there within the coaching circles and the media that this is going to be their year. I see a lot of people talking, like fan-wise, why is this team in the top 10? It's just they've progressively gotten better and better each season, and they're loaded offensively. So another category I have out there is outside the top 25, a major-style team that can possibly be a sleeper and surprise as well this year and make a run for what would be a Pac-12 championship, and that is Arizona. I like Anu Solomon. I think eventually, once the conference football season starts for them down there in the desert Southwest, he will get the starting nod at quarterback. Brandon Dawkins got in last year at the end of the season when Anu went down with a head injury. And so he's got experience now, but I see him as a little bit of a turnover machine, especially in that Arizona State game to finish up the season last year in the regular season. He's got the skills. He's a kid from Oaks Christian in California, but I think it's maybe another year for him before he works those issues out. And I would go with Anu Solomon, who's been in the system longer and just a more complete football player at quarterback. When he's healthy, that offense really ticks. You know, with Rich Rod out there in Tucson, he's never going to have a defense, but maybe that offense can finally reach the epic proportions of maybe a Big 12 style offense of Baylor, Oklahoma State, or Oklahoma, and they're going to be in a position where they're going to have to always outscore teams. My third level here is outside of the major conferences, a sleeper team that could make waves, and it's more or less maybe they can get to a bowl game this year, reach that 6-6, 7-5 level, and that's Miami of Ohio. Chuck Martin in his third season at Miami of Ohio. I think this is really an opportunity for him to succeed. It's a lot tougher, more difficult to get players to Miami of Ohio. All the other MAC teams in that conference have the academic restrictions not quite as high. So this is always, though, the time in the MAC when you have a brand new coach, brand new structure over the first couple years. It's year 3 that really is impactful on that coach. It's a make or break scenario, whether that coach gets fired or they go on and make strides and have a winning record. I think Miami of Ohio is now through those doldrums. Chuck Martin had a successful stint as assistant coach at Notre Dame and an excellent run as a Division II head coach at Grand Valley State. So he knows how to run a program. He's been at the highest program in the country, some would say, the most attention at least at Notre Dame. And then he very rarely lost a game at Division II as head coach Grand Valley State. I think it was 7 losses his entire career there. So look for big things out of him. Maybe they won't get to a bowl game this year, but when you go 2-10 your first year, 3-9 your second year, and you get some of the guys under your tutelage and recruits in-house now for 3 solid football seasons, I think it's an opportunity for him to have great progress with that program down there. we'll look for some big things as well. If he can get that going this year, he'll for sure see a fourth and fifth season from that standpoint, and then we'll see if they can do anything even greater. It's tough to make a bowl game and a run at Miami of Ohio, but if anybody can do it, Chuck Martin, he speaks a mile a minute, and he's a smart guy, and he'll be able to bring in the recruits eventually. It's just going to take some time and some patience. The second category tonight I want to hop to is the Heisman Trophy. You've got Christian McCaffrey out there, Leonard Fournette, but I am actually going to go with chalk this season. My prediction is Deshaun Watson. I just think he is one of the greatest dual-threat quarterbacks all time in college football history. You could see in that bowl game, or the national championship game, rather, last season, he put Clemson on his back, and Alabama was just so damn good. But he made that a game throughout, almost 3 quarters plus. And so with a guy like that on your team, no matter who you lose offensively and defensively, the guy's the best football player in college. He is going to lead Clemson to big things, maybe an ACC championship. We'll get to that later here in the next couple minutes. But I think he's just unbelievably talented. If he leads them that deep into the season, he should win the Heisman Trophy. But in Vegas circles, when you have the leading candidate at the start of the season, they rarely never win. Andrew Luck, it seems like, came back time and time again, and he never ended up with the Heisman Trophy. Maybe another Stanford Cardinal, Christian McCaffrey, can take it down. He had just a phenomenal season last year, and he came in as runner-up. Leonard Fournette, he was shut down by the Alabama defense last year. Otherwise, if that's reversed, I know it's a big if, he may have been the one hoisting the Heisman Trophy at the end of last season. So we'll see big things out of him, most likely as well, down in Baton Rouge. He's playing for big-time draft spot and money in the NFL. So he's got a lot of motivation and everything. So those are the 3 guys that are out there. It's tough to really call for a sleeper pick right now. Baker Mayfield was in the mix last year as well. So there's always a sleeper. It'll be interesting to see and fun to watch what sleeper, what guy will pop out this season. Now it's on to the Final Four. Like I said earlier on in this episode, we're going to have a little bit of fun with this. You look at the first spot, Alabama. Why not? We've crowned their ass so many times over the last decade. You might as well put them number 1 right now in the prediction meter. And you have the best college football coach, the greatest college football coach, in my opinion, of all time, and Nick Saban. So you have to pencil them into the Final Four. The second slot, the team that was so close and so competitive, a lot because of Deshaun Watson, you got to go with Clemson. I feel they will get past their one main test in a road game at Florida State. You've got the best college football player possibly in the country, maybe of all time, with his ability. I think the world of Deshaun Watson and his story from where he's come from. So I think Clemson, you can pencil in at the second spot. The third spot is going to be the University of Notre Dame. They had the suspensions over last week. I don't think those are going to really hurt them. They have 2 of the best quarterbacks and probably the best quarterback pound for pound structure with Malik Zaire and Kaiser running things. And they're great guys. They're friends. They get along, doing the research that I've done. And I feel like this team is loaded depth-wise, so they could take a couple hits here and there. The one question mark out there is always Brian Kelly. The guy has cost the University of Notre Dame football program so many fundamental wins. They had the game at Florida State 2 years ago won. Last year, I don't know how they let Stanford slip away, but a lot of it comes down to he's taken this mode of he gets a big lead like he did at the University of Michigan 5 years ago, and he just takes his foot off the gas pedal. So I think they have the talent there. It's just the coaching and in-game strategy or just mistakes that Coach Brian Kelly continually makes. Year to year, it seems like he does not get better as a coach inside the lines. Practice time, sure, he's one of the best, if not the second best in the country at developing football players. Look who he's put out into the NFL draft. I watched William Fuller tear up the Arizona Cardinals defense just a couple days ago in an exhibition game. Michael Floyd's out there, so many different players offensively and defensively in the NFL. But you look at their records over the years, and he's generally averaging 8-9 wins a season, so something's not adding up. I don't think it's the talent. he's brought in excellent talent. It's the coaching. And fourth is a little bit of a shocker that I'm talking about having fun with this Final Four prediction, and that's University of Washington. Chris Peterson is just an outstanding football coach. You've known him from his Boise State years. Takes a little bit of time. He kind of fell off the map at Washington, but it takes patience to build up a program. Even if it's a Tennessee and a Washington that has a hell of a history, it takes time. 85 scholarships across. It's not those days of 100-plus scholarships on a football team. So Chris Peterson has Jake Browning. Watch out for this kid. He's going to be a first-round draft pick in the coming years at quarterback, and I expect him to light it up. We talked last weekend about how the Pac-12 might beat each other up, but I look at Washington's schedule and how it sets up. It's tough, but with a quarterback that plays like Jake Browning can, I believe Washington can make a Final Four run out of the Pac-12. Enough of the Big Ten. It's 2 years in a row that the Big Ten has gotten in. I know Ohio State did their thing 2 years ago, but they got in because they beat up on a bunch of teams in their mediocre conference week after week, while teams from the Pac-12, Big 12, and SEC were knocking each other off. They got to take on Maryland and Purdue to make a run at the Final Four. Enough of this Big Ten football. It's time to put some other conferences into this Final Four that's going to come up in December. And with that, I want to let you know, you've just been on air, and I am Ryan Ayers.